We should go live. What's going on, college hoops heads? This is another edition of the One and Done podcast with Stephen Bagell and John Simpson. However, we are, combining whatever. This with our weekly college basketball live stream on the Center Hub's YouTube page and Twitter page. Given John and I were going to record today anyway doing a Feast Week preview, it just made more sense to just combine it on a live stream. So you guys could watch it here with us on YouTube, on Twitter, or you could find it on the One and Done podcast feed. With that said, my name is Stephen Bagell. I am hosting this evening alongside my co-host, you know him, you love him, John Simpson, of course, of the One and Done podcast and of the Center Hub. We are joined by friends of the pod, Andrew Schaeffer, Conrad Pascual, also part of the Center Hub. Anyway, let me pull up. I'm already butchering my job. Happy Feast Week, gentlemen, because we got a little taste of some multi-team events this weekend. But as we know, the week of Thanksgiving is really when college basketball season really starts picking up and heating up. So before we get started, John, very briefly, how are you doing?
Hey, we're doing great. Like you said, it's that time of the year. Going into Feast Week, I've already felt like I've had Feast Week. We've had some great basketball, I think, coming into this week. And excited to be on the live, excited to talk basketball with these guys.
And Duke beat Kansas in the Champions Classic, which we'll talk about, but that's always
everybody else.
Yeah. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm good. Another week down, another week to go. It's one of the best weeks of the college basketball season is when games are on all day long. It's a great time, and Feast Week should be good.
Is it safe to say Feast Week is the best week of college basketball? That's not March Madness? Or maybe conference tournaments would be?
Yeah, I would say conference tournament week and this one are probably neck and neck. I think it depends. I prefer this, honestly, better. I've been a proponent of getting rid of conference tournaments for years, but Feast Week's great, especially when they had Maui, but now you have Players Era, so it's going to be different Feast Week, but it's an exciting one for sure.
And Conrad, how are you doing today?
Excellent. Just finished up my WNBA draft lottery live stream. That was fun. Glad everyone joined. Hope a lot of the people that joined that one are here now, watching this one. But to echo kind of what Andrew and John were saying, this upcoming week is really fun. Thanksgiving for me is one of my favorite, probably my favorite holiday. I don't know, because I like that family, you get together, but it's a little bit more mellow compared to Christmas, and we're all basketball junkies, so that's basically Christmas for me. You just sit and watch games, so ready to dive in.
Not only do we have football, obviously, which you guys have on Thanksgiving, but we have quite a bit of college basketball. We have Duke and Arkansas. We have I know that's a doubleheader with Oklahoma State and Northwestern. On Black Friday, there's UConn and Illinois on top of, having Players Era all week, Maui Invitational, so on and so forth. But Feast Week is here. So let's quickly preview. I want to thank. Oh God! Shoot! Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. It's okay. We're live, so there's no going back. I want to quickly spend about 20-ish minutes previewing this past week and what happened, and then spend the rest of the time everyone's listening with us on previewing some Feast Week brackets. So I will be, when we get to Feast Week, be sharing my screen with all the brackets. But meanwhile, let's talk about last week. NC State over VCU was the only notable game on Monday. Shout out, I call that the Will Wade revenge game. Shout out to NC State. They look very, very good. John, an ACC guy, I'm sure is happy to see the ACC get that win just in terms of increasing the amount of bids and reputation of the conference. But Tuesday we had Champions Classic. So we had Michigan State over Kentucky, which Andrew and I will be writing a little bit about in depth for our weekly Last Week in College Basketball series. And obviously Duke beat Kansas. So John, I'm going to come to you first. Michigan State, you and I talked about this, on Tuesday while we were watching the games, that we are just wrong every year the last couple of years on Michigan State. In terms of, we had them, I think, when you and me and Maxwell did our Big Ten preview on this podcast. I had Michigan State, I think, 11th in the Big Ten, and you had them, I think, 10th. And Maxwell had them 9th or 10th. All three of us just said, we're going to put them here, but we all know we're going to regret it at the end of the year. Next thing we know, Michigan State might even be the best team in the state of Michigan, for what that's worth. Maybe controversial, but Tom Izzo just does such a good job of retention combined with, okay, this is the role each player is going to play. We're going to go out in the portal and get exactly this role that we still need. They did it with Trey Forth. They did it with the Miami kid who had an awesome game against Kentucky, Divine. I'm apologize. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. And then we saw Duke beat Kansas without Darren Peterson for Kansas, obviously. So, John, what were your biggest takeaways from the Champions Classic?
I think that game, like we were talking about, I swear I think I'm going to start going with my second instinct on Michigan State from here on out, because every year I'm off. I think they're going to be good, they're bad. I think they're going to be bad, they're good. But I think the real difference is, over the past couple of years, that we've seen Michigan State getting better, is like you said. I think some coaches have been able to adjust to the NIL era that were developers in the past, and I think that is something that Izzo's kind of gotten good at. He's got, like you said, he's got guys that he's brought in, Trey Ford, Divine Ugochukwu, and the portal that have been good at playing that role, like you said, but also like the development of those guys that are on that team. Like Jeremy Fears was awesome. Maybe he's a 4-year guy, I think. And then you've got Kurt Tang looked great in that game, and they just dominated Kentucky. They just looked so much better than Kentucky, and I don't think there's anybody who thought that Michigan State was going to be better than Kentucky this year, outside of the state of Michigan, maybe. But so yeah, that was really impressive. I think we have to talk about Michigan State as a big time competitor in that conference, and a chance to really compete for the Big Ten title. And then obviously, Duke winning over Kansas is a big win. I think it's going to be a big win towards the end of the year. Obviously, it was against Kansas with an asterisk, a pretty big asterisk too, I think, because it wasn't Kansas's best team for sure, and probably their best player wasn't in the game. But, again, looking at Duke, and, it's no secret that I'm a Duke fan, but I think that they've done everything that they're supposed to do so far this year. They've, the teams they're supposed to blow out, they've been blowing out. They've been winning the games that you expect them to win. They've been winning the games that you weren't sure if they're going to win or not. And I think it's for me, looking at this Duke team, I think they look like they're in midseason form, which is what you want to see out of a team that's going to be competing at that level. But I think all four of those teams are really good. I don't think Kentucky is the team that got blown out by Michigan State this year.
For what it's worth, we keep talking about Kansas not having Darren Peterson. Not saying those same caliber of player, but Kentucky has not had Jalen Lowe or Jaden Quaidance. Quaidance, again, we don't know when he's going to play. Jaden Lowe, now we also don't know when he's going to play because, I believe he had a setback from everything I understand. But for Michigan State, when you shoot 50, 50, 80 from the field, yeah, you're going to win a lot of games, regardless of who you're playing. Andrew, what is your perspective of the Champions Classic? And, how concerned are you, I guess, with Kentucky? Because I know that's something you and I are going to be emphasizing in our article that comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway from the Michigan State-Kentucky game is how bad Kentucky looked. Yeah. No disrespect to Tom Izzo and his team. I agree with John. They're definitely better than what we all anticipated them to be. But Kentucky looked disjointed. disinterested. And Mark Pope in his presser looked, emotionally distraught. I mean, it was not a good look. Um, I have major concerns with them. I mean, first of all, you don't have your starting point guard. I don't think he's coming back. I really don't. And that's a huge loss because Jalen Lowe was brought in from Pitt. He's a very good player for Jeff Capel. He was brought in to be the guy there. And it's unfortunate because that's the most important position in college basketball is the point guard position. And, Quaintance is out, you mentioned. That's a big, he's probably their best NBA prospect. Conrad would know better than me, but he's probably their best NBA guy. That's a huge loss at the rim. And you're relying on Otega Owe to create his own shots, not really his strength per se. So I have major concerns with Kentucky. I think they're going to be fine in the long term. They're not missing the tournament or anything like that. It's just they're dealing with adversity, I think, a lot earlier than anybody anticipated. And listen, I actually give Kansas a lot of credit. I mean, considering they didn't have Peterson, I thought they held their own against Duke. I think it's a great sign for Bill Self's team that, Melvin Council and Trey White and Flory B. Dunga, these guys can do things without Peterson there. I think that's crucial because now they gain more confidence because we know Peterson's going to be back at some point. He's not going to be out the whole year. He's going to come back at some point. And, hopefully when Peterson comes back, he's able to, do his thing. And then all these guys are able to do what they did against Duke. And I think they can be a formidable team.
And then Conrad, if you have anything to add on Champions Classic, feel free. But given you wrote the Sun Belt for the magazine, again,
right.
said, I want to pivot to Troy a little bit.
Yeah.
So, again, I still want your thoughts on Champions Classic, but Troy obviously had a huge week, getting a double overtime win over San Diego State, which honestly shouldn't even went to double overtime if Miles Bird hadn't hit a half-court heave at the buzzer to put in regulation, to put in overtime initially. But Troy finds a way to win that game. Then they go to a triple overtime game and lose by 1 to USC. And another game, honestly, they probably should have won. They definitely should have won if you saw the last shot USC made to win the game. Given Troy, we know they won out of the Sun Belt last year. Their leading scorer, Tatum Conaway, is now at Indiana. I believe they also lost another couple of their top guys from last year's team. I know they did. Just what was your expectation of Troy coming into the year compared to what you've seen? Again, Connor, you're a West Coast fan, so I'm sure you watched more of the double overtime San Diego State win and the triple overtime USC loss than I was able to see. Right. I saw some of the miraculous shots, but given you're a local Sunbelt enthusiast from the magazine, I want to hear your thoughts on both the Champions Classic and what Troy basketball did this past week.
Yeah, Troy, I mean, I think they were one of 5 schools that received, votes to finish first in the Sun Belt, from the preseason polls. I had them also, again, in the mix. I think I had them finishing second in the Sun Belt, but, my rankings pretty much were, kind of mirrored what the preseason polls were, which is it's going to be really close, at the top of the Sun Belt. I think there's probably 4 or 5 teams that could really win, the conference. As you said, Troy, they saw a number of their all conference players. Well, actually, no, every team saw their all conference players transfer out of the Sun Belt. Troy was no different. However, the 2 guys that I highlighted in our college season preview magazine were specifically Victor Valdez and Thomas Dowd. The funny thing is Thomas Dowd, I mean, he's having a good season, probably not the season he or the coaching staff expected, in the sense that I think they are still expecting him to reach another level with regards to kind of taking on more of a primary playmaking role. I think he still has it in him. You saw that, at times during the fourth quarter and in the overtimes, right, against USC. Again, just constantly making plays, finding ways to split the defense and everything like that. Identifying the open guys, in a crowd. They're probably going to rely on him or lean on him even more as the season progresses, which I think should be exciting. If you're a Troy fan, they definitely have another level to reach. Now, the guy who I also highlighted, but he's taken a massive leap, is Victor Valdez. again, I don't think a lot of fans expected him to maybe like to be, he'll be on ball, but to the extent that he's doing, in terms of, again, generating, consistently generating dribble penetration, being able to, handle double teams, or just very like proactively seeking the blitz and finding ways to get guys open. Disappointing loss, obviously that literally came down to like the final seconds, but I think, they're definitely showing that they can win in a number of ways. I think a lot of the teams in the Sun Belt, they like to, again, we've talked about this before, how it seems like every conference kind of takes on a collective identity. And sometimes it's because, right, you're building your team to match up against, right, your conference rivals. But the Sun Belt, they typically produce like these just really physical, grinded out teams. So the fact that Troy, they're seeing a lot of success, or relative success from the perimeter, definitely shows why they're not only being able to hang with teams that are, perceived to be ranked higher, but they can really truly go toe to toe with them. So that should really make conference play that much more exciting.
So then I want to talk about, we already talked about Champions Classic. I do want to pivot to, before we get into some of these MTEs we saw this weekend. There's still another couple of big games we saw. The three main ones, obviously BYU beating Wisconsin, actually blowing Wisconsin out. Alabama beating Illinois. And Arizona beating UConn in a true road game at UConn. Andrew, I'm going to jump to you now. Given your bracketology, knowledge compared to the rest of us, Arizona, I mean, I think it's safe to say they have the best resume in the country. And I think it's way too premature to even really be talking bracketology right now, of course. We're only 6 games in, 5 games in for some teams. But Arizona is 5-0 with a neutral win over Florida, the defending champs. They have a semi-away win against UCLA, and now they won at UConn. Like, how much is that like going to bode well for them? Obviously, going into when it really matters in terms of seeding, which basically March Madness.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, look, you build your resumes in the non-conference. That's how it works. You build your resumes in the non-conference. Conference games, you guys know, they're 50-50 games for the most part. And, they're all familiar with each other. Non-conference games is where you build your resume. And Arizona beat Florida, beat UConn on the road, and they beat
UCLA.
And they beat UCLA and LA, right? So Arizona has the inside track early on. They need to avoid bad losses, right? So they can't lose these bye games. They can't lose to teams in the bottom of the Big 12 when they get there. They've got to take care of who they're supposed to take care of. Now, obviously, they have Houston in their league, which is going to be, there's always this debate of, is there going to be 2 from the same conference on the one line, right? We had that last year in the SEC, right? Where you had Alabama potentially being a 1, Florida, Kentucky was in the mix, Tennessee was in the mix.
Auburn was the 1.
Yeah, Auburn, right? There are all these questions about like, how many 1 seeds would the SEC get? Historically speaking, usually it's the winners of the 4 best Power 5 leagues tend to get those seeds. That's how it normally plays out. So you look at, right now it'd probably be the winner of the SEC, the winner of the Big 12, the winner of the Big 10, and probably the winner of the ACC, which would be Duke in this case, probably getting a 1 seed. Is it possible that the Big 12 could get 2 1s? Yeah, it's absolutely possible. Arizona's made a clear case. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say Houston couldn't get a 1 seed. I mean, but they're rostered in the way they play. So it's absolutely possible. Right now, I think the SEC is unknown. There's been a lot of up and down in that league early on. You know about Florida struggling a little bit. Kentucky's had their issues. I think the one clear thing is Alabama is very good. I think that's the one thing we know at the top of that league. You have UConn, obviously, in the Big East that I think will have a lot to say. But, I know the committee doesn't use head-to-head. They don't typically look at that stuff. But could Arizona-UConn be a matchup that they look at? It's possible. But Arizona clearly has the inside track. There's no question about it. They do have the best resume. Again, as you said, it's very early. We're 6 games in. But, yeah, they look really good. I said it. Jaden Bradley's look great. Koa Pete's looked pretty good for the most part. Del Orso looks like a really great shooter. I think he's an NBA guy. At the next level, he's a guy with size that can absolutely shoot and create. So they look good, and I got to give Tommy Blake credit. I mean, he schedules tough games. Like, this is a coach that schedules very difficult. It's not a guy who, like Jay Lucas at Miami, who walks in and says, "Okay, we're going to schedule 10 cupcakes and never leave the state of Florida." He's playing tough games. He just went to UConn. I mean, that's a very difficult game. But yes, to answer your question, they have the inside track. They are right now, by tournament standards, the number 1 overall seed. Yeah. They're not going to be number 1 in the AP poll probably or anything like that, but. Right now they would be the number 1 overall seed if we started today.
They probably won't be number 1 in the AP poll, but they'll definitely. I mean, they will 4 this week.
They have a case.
And UConn who's number 3, so they'll definitely be top 3. It's just a matter.
They have a case. Yeah. The problem is, how can you move Purdue down?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, I think everyone's in agreement that like Arizona has a case to be number 1 in the AP poll. They have a clear case. The problem is Purdue didn't lose.
And Purdue we're going to talk about momentarily, beat the crap out of, for lack of a better term, Texas Tech, who's the top 10 team in their own respect.
Correct. So, but yeah, I think Arizona has the inside track.
John, I'm going to ask you about Alabama and Illinois, because I know you feel some type of way with this Illinois team. Alabama, I mean, Andrew just alluded to Tommy Lloyd making a very difficult schedule for them. Alabama's has a 4-game stretch where they beat St. John's in MSG, lost to Purdue in a home game for Alabama in Tuscaloosa, won a semi-away game at Illinois. Now they're going to play Ozera. Well, they're going to play Gonzaga and UNLV, obviously in Vegas. They'll play a 3rd game in Playa Ozera, depending how those 2 go. And then they play home game against Clemson. 2 games later, they play a semi-home against Arizona. Like, Alabama's playing maybe even a more difficult schedule than Arizona, so I thought that was at least worth mentioning. But John, what makes you so enamored with this Illinois team?
Oh man, and this is another one that we kind of talked about on the when we did our preview of the Big Ten Conference preview. We talked about like this Illinois team is like as boom or bust as it gets on paper in the preseason, just because there's so much interesting talent coming to this team. I don't think we really realized the extent of that in preseason, and this is, I am, I was a little bit wary given that, we kind of had the same kind of feelings last year. But I love this Illinois team. I mean, when you look at the players as they come together, the roster build, the way they've been playing, they hung with this Alabama team in that game. It was a great game, and they had obviously they had to win. But they shoot great, they pass great. It's a team that rebounds. I love what Colin Boswell is doing. I think Colin Boswell is playing as good basketball at the guard position as anybody in the country is right now. He's really taking and making this team his own, scoring, distributing, playing good ball, being a leader. And then, I don't know if I've publicly professed my love yet for David Mirkovich, but this might be it. I know I have privately to you almost every day this basketball season. He's amazing, dude. I mean, just watching Illinois, watching him play, he does things, and you look at him coming out on the court, you're like warming up, you're like, who is this guy? He just looks like another, another one of Illinois' bigs out there. But the way he moves with the ball, the way he shoots, the way he's an amazing passer. He's been a great part. Where everybody was talking about, how are they going to figure out the big man rotation in Illinois? We weren't even talking about David Mirkovich, dude. And he's the best one they got.
Yeah.
He's been a great addition to this team. Keaton Wagler has been amazing. So, I really like this team, and for them to be playing the way they are, and winning the games they have been, and playing tough against this Alabama game, I think that Illinois is another team is just going to get better. And they just have guys. They got Petrovic just coming back from injury. Stojakovic, has only been back for a few games.
Tomislav Ivicic only played 1 game so far.
Wow. Yeah. So, it's a deep roster. They can play a lot of guys too. I think it helps them out a lot too. So, and then even like Jake Davis and Humercus. So, good team. They're a fun team to watch, and it's just, I mean, it almost looks like an NBA team out there the way they play, the style of basketball they play, which is what Brad Underwood does. It's not surprising. So, I'm excited about Illinois this year.
So now let's talk a little bit about the MTEs that already happened. Right here, I have the Bahamas, the Borough Mar Classic Championship. Purdue and Memphis. I mean, Memphis is now, after losing to Purdue and losing to Wake Forest, they're 1-4. Admittedly, I think they were underdogs in every game. I don't know what they were against Wake Forest, but Wake Forest was due for one of these wins after taking Michigan to overtime.
Yeah, and Memphis was an underdog in that game.
Who was an underdog? Memphis?
Yeah, they were a 2.5-point dog.
So, like, they're 1-4, but, like, the only game they lost that they probably should have won would be against UNLV. So, like, at best, if you just assume things play out the way they play out, they should be 2-3. Even if Wake Forest could have won either way. But, like, as a fan of Temple who is hoping that the American will somehow find its way back to being a 2-bid league, the fact that Memphis, which is obviously, like, the main brand name school in the American, is now 1-4, like, that does not bode well for the American as a whole, obviously. Regardless, like, the fact that they're dropping so many of these high-level matchups. Texas Tech, obviously, them and Wake went down to, I believe it was the final shot. I know it was a 1-point game. And then Purdue beat Texas Tech by 30. So, like, Purdue is good. I had them last week in my top 75, that my weekly piece that I do. I had Purdue number 1, and I had Arizona number 4. Now I'm somewhere between one of them and 1 and 2. Houston, a very close number 3. I don't want to spoil what I'm going to do. You guys should go read the article when it comes out Tuesday morning. But either way, we have that one. Then we have, I want to quickly talk about the Hall of Fame Classic, where Nebraska won the championship, 1-point game over Kansas State. Kansas State beat Mississippi State by 21. And then Mississippi State, of course, lost to New Mexico, 80-78. Are we concerned about Mississippi State at all? Like, given they're like a mid-tier SEC team?
Maybe. Concerned in what?
Like,
as an actual contender, or?
No, like, Mississippi State's made the tournament, 4 or 5 years in a row now? The March Madness I'm referring to. Like, if you're a Mississippi State fan, are you concerned that they lost both of these games to Kansas State and New Mexico? I'm a lot more concerned about the New Mexico loss than I am Kansas State, for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, I think you have to be. Yeah. I mean, I can only speak from a bracketology point of view, but, again, when you play Power 5 opponents in your non-con, you've got to win some of those games. I mean, and Conrad knows because he covered the SEC for the magazine. I mean, the SEC isn't as strong right now as they were last year. They're just not. And the reality is, I mean, they lost to Iowa State, Kansas State. New Mexico, I don't know how that loss is going to look in 3 months because they've been kind of up and down. No, the Mountain West has been all over the place.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to look. Kansas State is probably a bubble team, I think, in most people's minds. We're, maybe on that 8, 9, 10 area. Iowa State was expected. I mean, they're obviously very good. But when you look at the rest of their non-conference, they play SMU, who's a bubble team. They go to Georgia Tech. They should win that game. San Francisco is not an easy game. I mean, they just beat Minnesota. They play Utah, Memphis. Like, they don't have opportunities. Their opportunities was those other games. So I am very concerned this team is going to be hanging around the bubble. And then they're going to be banking on their conference play to basically build their resume.
And they're in a conference that obviously has got 14 bids last year. So that's a very difficult feat. Shout out to our friends at hoopshd.com, by the way, who graciously posted all these brackets for fans to use. And, of course, we're taking advantage of it as well. So, otherwise, let me see. Paradise Jam, that championship is tomorrow. The Charleston Classic Low Country bracket. Utah State and Davidson are playing the championship game tonight in about 40 minutes. What about Utah State? Like, John and I know about Utah State because we obviously had a friend of the pod, Coach Jared Calhoun, on one and done a couple years ago when he first took the job. We had Darius Brown on the pod previously. So, like, Utah State is like an adopted one and done team. But with how the Mountain West has been going, we already said it. San Diego State lost to Troy. Grand Canyon lost a couple games. Oh, Grand Canyon lost an easy game. UNLV, I know they beat Memphis, but they lost some games they shouldn't have lost. That Colorado State lost to Denver the other day. So, like, that conference very quickly is losing a lot of luster after being a 6-4 bid league the last 2 years. Utah State seems to be the one bright spot in that conference for what that's worth. But yeah, obviously they need to get the job done against. If they lose to Davidson, then all of a sudden that conference isn't looking so hot themselves. And then
5-0 too.
What is it?
Davidson and Utah State are both 5-0. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say the A10 is on the way to becoming a 2 big league once again, but like now GW just lost to McNeese today. We know how bad Loyola Chicago has been this year, so that's just something we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the A10's best shot is VCU and St. Louis, based on what we've seen. I think those are the two teams with the best shot at the. And, you know, I think VCU's got a massive opportunity here with their MTE coming up. Like, they have a chance to potentially make an at-large case. When it comes to Utah State, I mean, look, I said this to you, Steve, off air. I think they can get undefeated until they get to Boise State in January. I mean, they really can. They have a pretty soft non-con the rest of the way. I think they play South Florida, which should be a really interesting game. South Florida's look good. But after that, I mean, their conference slate starts out pretty, you know, games they should win. And then they play Boise State, I think, January 10th on the road. But I think Utah State is definitely, I think they're the team to beat in the Mountain West right now. I might be overreacting to the Troy game that San Diego State lost, but Utah State also beat VCU on a neutral court. So,
and they just killed Tulane, who I think is one of the better teams in the American.
Yeah. And they should beat Davidson tonight. I mean, no disrespect to Davidson, but Killup's done a hell of a job, considering I had no idea Davidson was going to be 5-0 at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's early. You know, you take the early season, you know, non-conference competition with a grain of salt, but still, you know, 5-0 and being what I believe last time I checked, they're around top 50 in both offensive rating and defensive rating. I mean, you're going to win a lot of games like that. Like you're definitely going to win the Mountain West. So, I mean, well, I don't want to say definitely, but I mean, you're poised to be right there. So, I mean, yeah, I think the stats match the eye test, you know.
So let's pivot to some of these Feast Week matchups that haven't happened yet. I have on my screen right now the ESPN Events Invitational, the Adventure Bracket. I know the average fan probably doesn't care as much, unless you're like a real sickle like us, cares much about this tournament. But given I'm a Temple alumnus, Conrad is a UC San Diego alumnus, and those two teams are playing each other in the first round.
That's right.
My fiance is a Towson alumnus. Those are 3 of the 8 teams in here. I covered Princeton last year. Julian covered Princeton on Thursday for the Center Hub. Richie McKay is a friend of the Center Hub. So, like, there's a whole bunch of things in here. I know John loves Brian Wardell at Bradley. So, like, this is a bracket that I said this, like, with the 4 of us on the stream, Andrew himself is a real sicko in terms of this stuff. So, this was a bracket I wanted to take the time for us to predict. At least the champion for it. So, at the top, it's Rhode Island versus Towson, 11 a.m. tomorrow. I'm going with Towson. Andrew, how about you?
It's a tough one because Rhode Island just beat Yale. It's a tough game. I'll take Towson. I like what they have, and I think they're going to win. I think they're actually going to go to the tournament this year. I think this is the year they get it done, so I'll take Towson.
John, you had a chance to talk to Towson head coach Pat Scarry for the magazine when you were with the CAA. So I'm interested to get your opinion on Towson and Rhode Island.
Yeah, you know, I'm going with Towson too.
Okay.
Once a Tiger, always a Tiger.
That's right.
Once a Tiger, always a Tiger. Conrad, I know it's already 3 votes to none, but Towson and Rhode Island.
Towson.
Okay. Clean sweep. Liberty and Vermont, 2 very fun, very successful mid-major teams over the last probably decade about. I'm going to go Liberty, though. Like, I think they're one of, if not the best mid-major team in the whole country. Conrad, how about you?
I want to go Vermont, but I don't know that I should.
Oh my god.
I'll probably go Liberty. I think they're a more, let's say, well-balanced team than this iteration of Vermont. Though, I mean, like I said, Vermont can put up points. They just allow a lot. At least
it's not a good idea to bet against John Becker, but it's also not a good idea to bet against Richie McKay, which is, I think, why you're so torn on who to take.
That was definitely a reason. Yeah, so I'm probably going to lean Liberty, though. I do look forward to this matchup. I think Vermont, like I said, they've definitely been scorching the nets lately. So it'll be a fun feast week matchup.
John, Liberty or Vermont?
Oh, Liberty.
Okay.
Liberty's a good team.
Andrew, it's 3-0, but who do you take, Liberty or Vermont?
Yeah, I'm going with Liberty.
Okay. So clean sweep there again. I'm going to save Temple and UC San Diego for Conrad and I to fight it out at the end. Princeton and Bradley. Both these teams lost a little luster compared to where they were last year. Obviously, Princeton doesn't have Xavier Lee or Caden Pierce this year. Julian did see them beat Northeastern on Thursday, though. You could read about his analysis in Andrews and my Last Week in College Basketball article that will be posted tomorrow. I'm going to go Bradley just because I still don't think Princeton's all that great this year. And Bradley, I still think, is an upper-tier NBC team. John, Bradley or Princeton?
Oh, I'm going with Bradley here. I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I agree. Andrew, Bradley or Princeton?
Yeah, I'm going with Bradley. I think Princeton's lost too much. It's going to be a long rebuild for them. I'm going Bradley.
As a Temple fan, I just hope if Temple wins, Bradley wins. If Temple loses, Bradley loses. Because Temple already plays Princeton at Leo Course Center in 2 weeks. I don't want to play Princeton twice. I'd rather get the exposure against another team. So, like, I don't want to have as fun as it would be to play a good Ivy League team like Princeton twice. I'd rather get the exposure and play Bradley and Princeton both. And Conrad, Princeton or Bradley?
Yeah, definitely Bradley.
Okay.
I got to go with Bradley on this one. I think Princeton, they have like the upside, but their guys are still kind of settling into their roles.
And what's his face? Dalen Davis, Princeton's leading scorer. Julian said he got hurt when he was there on Thursday. I don't know if he came back in the game or not. I don't know if he's going to miss it. I have no idea. But that's something worth mentioning. And then we have 3 clean sweeps, but now we have Temple versus UC San Diego. Again, my alma mater versus Conrad's alma mater. So, Andrew, I'm going to start with you on this one. Temple or UC San Diego?
Oh boy, I don't want to upset
one, I think, to pick.
I don't want to upset a party here. That's tough. Look, this is tough because I do think UC San Diego is one of the more underrated teams in the Big West. I think I'm going to take Temple. I'm sorry, Conrad. I think it's great that Adam Fisher got his extension for the Owls. I think that's a big thing for a program when you know the coach is going to be there now. And look, I gotta take Temple. I'm gonna take Stevens Owls. I'm sorry.
And you know the Temple fight song?
I don't know that I want to know the Temple fight song, to be honest.
John,
and I don't know if I want to hear you sing it either. No offense.
Well, you have to pick one. I'm kidding. John, Temple or UC San Diego?
Yeah, this is another one I think is a really good matchup. I think both these teams are playing well this season. It should be I think it's a close game, but I think I'm gonna go Triton's up, UCSD.
We're split. There we go.
John just did that because he knows it's going to be a tie now.
Well, hey, good TV.
Yeah, there you go. You're betting against LeBron frames?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know who LeBron Frames is?
No, I do not.
Gavin Griffith's new name on Broad Street is LeBron Frames.
LeBron Frames.
Because he wears the goggles.
He wears the rec specs.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so this one, it just seems like it's going to talk because I'm going to take Temple and Conrad. I'm assuming you're taking UCSD?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's pivot to, I'm not even going to have us break the time. I'm just going to see each person's individual winner. Towson and Liberty, another really fun mid-major matchup. That's probably the best team in the CAA versus the best team in the Conference USA. I'm going to take Liberty in a probably ends up being the best game in this bracket. John, what about you? Liberty or Towson?
Oh man. I'm going to take Liberty. I think this would be a huge game for Towson to win. But I think that Liberty is just a better team.
It's the coach I talked to for the magazine versus coach you talked to for the magazine.
I know, and I think they Coach Scary, talked about, he thinks the CAA should be a two-bid league. I don't know about that. I mean, if there were to be a two-bid league, they would need for Towson to win this game against Liberty. But I think they're just a better team. Liberty's really, like you said, probably one of the best mid majors.
And then Andrew, Liberty or Towson?
Yeah, I'm going Liberty. I just, again, one of the better mid-major teams. And as much as I love what Pat Scary's doing, I got to take Richie McKay. I'll take Liberty.
And then Conrad, what about you, Liberty or Towson?
Towson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think with the nature of like these tournament formats, the fact that they have to play essentially a back-to-back, I'm going to lean on Towson's defense. And I think, right, they're better suited to kind of play a messier game because I think fatigue will start to settle in and everything. So we'll see. Yeah.
So 3 of us have Liberty. Conrad has Towson. We all have Bradley. So Bradley versus Temple, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going Temple.
Okay.
I have not liked what I've seen with Bradley this year. I think it's going to take a while for them to. I think they'll be fine. Like I think when we get to the Missouri Valley Conference time, they'll be fine. But it's kind of been a rough go for them so far. I think they're still trying to figure some things out. I like what Temple's done. I'm going to take the Owls.
John, you have Bradley versus UC San Diego.
I know. I didn't foresee me getting into this place. No, I think I'm going to go San Diego in this matchup.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go Temple. Conrad, you go UC San Diego or Bradley?
UC San Diego.
Okay.
They're on the same page. They're rolling. You know what I'm saying? Like they've quickly fit into their roles, right? Even a new cast of characters. So yeah, I like the rhythm that they're on.
Conrad, I'm going to stay with you. Towson versus UC San Diego for the ESPN Events Invitational and Venture Bracket Championship.
Okay, cool. In that scenario, the Tritons are going home with some hardware. All right. So.
John, you have, who'd you just say? UC San Diego and Liberty.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good high-scoring affair, but it's going to go to Liberty.
I'm also going to take Liberty over Temple. Andrew, how about you?
I am taking Liberty over Temple as well.
Okay, so 3 of us have Liberty winning. 1 of us is UC San Diego winning.
Woo-hoo.
He's an alum. Come on. She's got to pick them. I'm sorry, she didn't take Temple.
I may know the coach, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, come on.
Conrad used to party. He was in the same frat. I'm kidding. Conrad used to go to frat parties with their coach.
Something like that.
Okay. So then I just put, just for the purposes to see the matches for Players Error. Andrew, do you know how Players Error works? Isn't it just the best teams that they go by record and then by point differential? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's each team plays 2 games, record, point differential. Correct.
Okay. So out of these, I don't know why Texas and UCLA and Duke and South, those women's games?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm talking about these Monday and Tuesday slots, the TNT and True TV slots. These are the Players Era games. Which game are we most looking forward to? I think I have my answer. So I'll go first if you guys need a couple minutes to look it over.
I think you're going to say the same game I am, but go ahead.
Alabama Gonzaga?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so intrigued because, usually that'd be such a high-scoring affair, Alabama and Gonzaga, because they're such 2 potent offenses. But I dig Gonzaga's defense so much this year that, I could just see everyone expecting it being a shootout, but it just end up being a defensive battle because that's what NATO's would need to adjust to try to beat this Gonzaga team.
I mean, the way I look at that game, I mean, again, Conrad covered Alabama for the magazine. I saw Alabama against St. John's, but I'm so fascinated to watch Bama's front court against Gonzaga's front court with DK and them. I am so fascinated. Alabama's front court has been an issue. I mean, outside of Bull Bowen, who I think has played, honestly, probably overachieved already, to be honest with
absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
He's been incredible for them. But, like, Noah Williamson is taking a long time, I think longer than they anticipated. I'm very concerned with Bama up front. And I think Gonzaga is just going to throw it to Graham Ike, and he's going to absolutely dominate this game. And I think Gonzaga is going to win it. I do. I think Gonzaga's surprised a lot of people and have been much better than anybody thought.
John, which matchup are you most looking forward to in the Players era?
I mean, I think outside of the obvious Gonzaga-Alabama game, which I think I kind of expected Bull Bowen to play the way he has. I was kind of projecting him to do that this year for Alabama. So it's exciting to see that. Talking about a front court matchup, the sicko in me is excited to watch San Diego State and Michigan and see that front court matchup there, especially with Magoo and Guath healthy. Going against the bigs of Michigan, I think that's going to be a fun battle to watch down low. I don't think that, San Diego State is a team that lost last week. I'm excited to see that game. And then on the other hand, I think I want to see how Notre Dame plays against Kansas. I don't think they're going to win that game at all, but I know that Notre Dame is better this year than they were last year, than they were the year before that. And I'm excited to see with the ACC as a whole kind of playing well this year. I'm excited to see how Notre Dame plays against Kansas.
Conrad, and then how about you? Any games that you're most looking forward to?
Two, I mean, you guys already mentioned Alabama and Gonzaga, and I largely agree with a lot of the points that you made of why it's so intriguing. But specifically, obviously, like LeBaron Philon's been on a roll. Again, he just, even when like he has like maybe like a slow opening, like a couple minutes, he finds ways to get in a groove, whether that's getting himself to the line, finding ways to get himself downhill. I'm very intrigued to see the matchup, the backcourt matchup of Philon versus Mario St. Superi, right? Who again, right? A lot of highlights with his offense, but specifically what he's doing defensively has been nothing short of spectacular or impressive. Again, I know small sample size, but hey, it's the sample size we're working with. The other one is also Michigan versus Auburn. Just because, again, Michigan's front court for all the right reasons, kind of making headlines. Yaxel Lindenborg, Morris Johnson Jr., Ade Mara, Sebastian Williams, right? Sebastian Williams Adams. I mean, he's been, 6'8", but he plays bigger than 6'8". This iteration of Auburn has a lot more kind of like rangy front court players. So I wonder, again, if they're kind of their speed, their lateral quickness, can kind of throw Michigan off rhythm because, again, Johnson, Mara, they're good passers, but still primarily their offense comes around the rim. So you got to get to the rim. You got to get to the paint. And I want to see, if Auburn can kind of take him out of the rhythm, kind of get him, playing outside and having to kind of reset the action. So those are two that I'm looking forward to.
So my next question is, I want a title, a Player Era Festival champion from each of you. I'm going to give who I think's going to win, but I'm also going to give a long shot of who I think could win. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to take my champion to be Gonzaga because, yes, that Alabama game is going to be very tightly contested, but I could just see them blowing the doors off of a very hard Maryland team to get the point differential, go 2-0, and then Gonzaga, I think, is as good as any team in this field, if not the best team in the field. It's them, Houston, and probably after that, you go St. John's, Tennessee, and Iowa State or somewhere up there. But like Gonzaga and Houston, I think are the two best teams in here. And I think, they have an easy game against Maryland. So if they beat Alabama, they're already halfway there in terms of, winning, or more than halfway, though, because they're going to play 3 games in terms of winning the Players Era Festival. Would it shock you guys if Kansas is Dan Peterson out? Do we know? Is he playing in this?
I believe he's out
I believe he's out as well, but
for
I don't have.
2 games, I think. I think he's out the 2 games.
So I want to say Kansas. Like, I still think Notre Dame is very underrated, but like Notre Dame and Syracuse, Kansas definitely has the easiest path, I think, in terms of all these teams to, like, they should be favored in both those games, I would imagine. I want to say they have a shot of just going 2-0, beating Syracuse by 15 and Notre Dame by 11, having a plus 26 point differential and getting in the championship game. But obviously, without Peterson out, that loses quite a bit of luster. Something to think about, I guess. Andrew, who do you think is going to win the Players Era Festival?
I'm going to take Houston.
Okay.
I just think at the end of the day, Syracuse is a team that's trying to prove itself this week. They haven't played anyone. Your first test is Houston. Good luck to you. Tennessee is going to be a rock fight. It's going to be, remember, that's a rematch of an Elite Eight game from last year. But Tennessee's a different team. Jacoby Gillespie, Nate Ammon's a different group now. I love what Kingston Flemings has been for Houston so far. I think he's really good. And, Calvin Sampson is great in these tournaments. I mean, it's just what he does. I agree with you, Gonzaga. I would say it's Houston and Gonzaga. To me, it's probably the final or those 2 teams. And I think if we get that, that's great for the sport. But I'll take Houston.
Phenomenal for the sport.
I will take Houston.
Conrad, how about you? Who do you think is going to win Player Era Festival?
It's tough.
Come on, go big.
Michigan.
There we go.
Michigan's a team I thought about, actually.
There we go.
There
Go
we go.
big.
Go big, literally.
Well, quite literally, right? Quite literally. But no, I mean, again, how effective Michigan's backcourt is, I think, will kind of determine, whether they could actually like control these games. My man Elliot Cadeau is like, he's like the prototypical, like both eye test and analytics, like darling combined. When he needs to grift, he grifts and he does it really well, So, I mean, again, he's kind of been a stabilizing force when things kind of get like, kind of dicey. So we'll see. Again, this is some good competition that'll really test both the backcourt. But if he's going, then that's how he gets like the bigs going. So that's why I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it seems like he could take advantage of his matchups based on like the schedule. So yeah, I think Michigan's got a good shot.
And then John, Players Era, who do you have as the champion?
Oh man, so this is a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be when we were looking at it. I don't love. So I'll tell you who I really like. We didn't talk about it all. St. John's in this tournament. Right. I like their early matchups. I think if Tennessee was playing anybody but Houston in the first round, I would like to see.
Well, yeah, because Rutgers lost
a tough game because they're going to blow out Rutgers.
Yeah.
But Houston's a tough game. Tennessee could beat Houston. I mean, that's kind of their pathway. You know what I mean? But I really like St. John's as a team. I think they've gotten better every game they played this year. I think it's a good, solid team. On the other hand, which I can't believe, I think Alabama has a good chance to win this tournament. But I was thinking more about like my long shot, right? Because we got what? 4 teams that we're really thinking, 3-4 teams that are really going to win this: Alabama, Tennessee, Houston, Gonzaga. But what about Oregon? Looking at Oregon, they got. I think Auburn's a very winnable game for them. San Diego State's a very winnable game for them. They haven't blown anybody out this year, but they really do. This is a team that does what they have to do to win. They have the
Didn't Oregon
continuity.
win? Didn't Oregon win last year?
Yes.
Did they? Yeah. There you go. Repeat. They want to keep the hardware in Oregon. I think it's have an opportunity to, especially if there's some upsets. I think that Oregon has a good opportunity to at least play for the player championship.
Oregon just might be tough because they have the two difficult matchups. Like, I don't know if they blow out either of those teams, and they probably won't. So, like, they would need the point differential somehow work in their favor.
Right.
Otherwise, John, I actually thought it was funny that you said St. John's because I thought you were going to come out and say Iowa State, actually. Because I know how you feel about that program and Coach Otzelberger.
You never count out Coach Otz.
Nope. So, okay, we have a couple more brackets I want to quickly go over. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. So let's do Maui, actually. Maui, obviously, a conference that, because the Player Area Invitational, lost a lot of luster. Rather than going pick by pick in each game, we all see the bracket here. Let's each just give our championship pick, our first and second place, basically. I'm going to take NC State over Texas, which is probably the chalk answer. I think Texas has an easy path to the championship, given they play Arizona State in the winner of Washington State and Chaminade. That basically, I don't want to say it's a cakewalk to the championship, but like they're by far the best team out of those four. NC State, USC does give me a little bit of hesitation. But I'm still going to go NC State over Texas. Conrad, who is your Maui championship?
Texas over USC.
Okay.
Yeah. I really like the defense Texas has been playing. I mean, it's still offense is kind of in the works, but I mean, I trust Joey. They'll find a way to muster up some offense.
Okay, John, who's your Maui champion? Or championship, rather?
Man, I'm going to go with NC State out of the top bracket, and then I don't know, man. Give me Arizona State in the bottom. NC State over Arizona State. After Arizona State upsets Texas.
Is there anything about that matchup you like in particular? You just don't think Texas is all that great this year?
It's just that I don't think Texas is all the way there yet.
You could just say Bobby Hurley went to Duke and you're a homer. That's fine too.
I didn't even think about that. No. I was thinking more about Pig Lizzy, if anything, dude.
Yeah. Pig Lizzy. Yeah. Andrew, who is your Maui championship?
Yeah, I'll take NC State over Texas.
Okay. Again, those are probably the two best teams. Maybe USC is better than Texas. But I'm saying in terms of this bracket, I think those are clear best team in each.
Yeah, but USC almost lost to Troy. I can't, Boise State lost to a non-D1. USC almost lost to Troy. No disrespect to the Sun Belt and the Fighting Conrads, but
that's right, man.
But NC State is by far the best team in that field and should win that pretty comfortably, in my opinion.
USC had a tough time with Illinois State too, and Illinois State was not hitting shots at all. Like Illinois had a bad game and couldn't get out of that game. Yeah.
Okay, so then we have Battle for Atlantis. Again, I have the bracket up on here. Rather than going through each game like we did with the ESPN Events Invitational, we're going to each give, our championship pick, really. Andrew, I'm going to go with you first.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm going to go. Wow, that top bracket is brutal. I'm going to go Vandy and St. Mary's.
Vandy?
And I'm taking
I missed Vanderbilt. Good thing I didn't go first. I completely.
I am taking Vandy. I'll take the Gales of St. Mary's to win the Battle for Atlantis. I have loved the way they have played. They have surprised me a little bit. I thought coming into the year this was going to be a bubble team, and I think now I am pretty confident they're going to be a tournament team. And Randy Bennett's a great coach. What he's done is remarkable. I think Virginia Tech will be a difficult game. Guarding of Dallas will be a challenge for St. Mary's, even though he's a great defensive coach. And that VCU South Florida game is going to be a good one. That is going to be a tough game, but I will take Vandy and Mark Byington. I'm a believer in Vandy. I'll take the Gales though in a rematch of a first round tournament game from last year that St. Mary's. I think St. Mary's won that game. I could be wrong, but I'll take the Gales over Vandy.
Conrad, given you've already covered 2 St. Mary's games,
That's right.
For the Center Hub, I'm going to go with you next. Who is your championship prediction for the Battle for Atlantis?
Yeah, I just have to echo Andrew's pick. I'm going St. Mary's over Vanderbilt. Some good teams in the field. However, I think they're probably the 2 best. With St. Mary's, I think, I had questions about them, maybe different questions that Andrew had. I think there was already a lot of talent, even that they were bringing back this season, but a lot of those returning players were having to step into a new or an expanded role. And, how much time would it take for them to adjust to that new role, if they can at all? And so far, a lot of those guys, specifically, sophomore Mikey Lewis, junior power forward, Paulius Moroskis, I wouldn't want to say they've completely reinvented their game, but they're definitely showing elements that they didn't have to show last year. I think last year they were very much in a defined role. So I really like, kind of like the balance that the Gales are playing with right now. So I would pick them to win this tournament.
Okay. John, do you want to go next or do you want me to go?
I'll go next.
Okay. Who do you have in the Battle for Atlantis Championship?
Yeah, so I am going to go, I guess, a little off script here and say that, granted, we are in the Bahamas, but I think the championship, we're going to keep things in the Commonwealth of Virginia with VCU and Virginia Tech as my final.
And then who do you have winning?
I'm going to go with Virginia Tech.
Okay. So I saw this bracket. I initially said, okay, St. Mary's, I think, is going to win. Then I'm looking at these matchups. I think this is going to be a huge, even bigger coming out party for Nicholas of Dallas and what we've already seen. I'm going to go Virginia Tech over Vanderbilt. I'm not discrediting anything St. Mary's has done this year. I think St. Mary's has been thus far just about the best team. I know Vanderbilt's higher in KenPom, but actually, I don't know about that. Either way, Vanderbilt and St. Mary's are definitely the 2 best teams in this bracket, but I just think Virginia Tech of Dallas, John's boy, Toby Lual, is on that team as well. I could just see this being a massive of Dallas coming out party and Virginia Tech just winning this thing. Again, I really like Vanderbilt. I like Tyler Nickel. I like Devin McLaughlin. We actually have an article written by Sheed on Atlanta coming out tomorrow on the Center Hub Substack about Devin McLaughlin on Vanderbilt. I think USF is a really good matchup too. I think they beat VCU and they're going to give Vanderbilt hell. Like I really do. And I think Virginia Tech and St. Mary's is a really good matchup. So just because I don't want to go chalky on every single pick I've made in this tournament, really, I'm going to go Virginia Tech over Vanderbilt. No fault to any of the other teams that I don't have winning.
And I do think, this is a field that a lot of people claim has taken a hit because of players' error, just like Maui. That field is actually pretty solid.
It's probably better than Maui.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
It's deeper. You have the potential A10 winner, the potential American Conference winner, an SEC team that should be in the tournament in Vandy. St. Mary's should be in the tournament. Virginia Tech's a team people are high on. It's a quality field. It's a pretty quality field for taking a hit from the players' error.
The 2025 Acrisure Classic, Palm Desert, California. Iowa Ole Miss is going to be a really fun game. Again, we don't need to go through everyone. I think Grand Canyon beats Utah for what it's worth. I think we'd all agree on that. But I'm very excited to see Ben McCollum's Iowa team against Ole Miss, and that 2 games. ESPN Events Imagination bracket. ESPN Events Magic bracket. Do we all have BYU over Georgetown?
Yes.
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 Okay. BYU beating Georgetown, correct? In the championship.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Georgetown's been good. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat BYU.
I don't think they're that good. They're good, not good enough to beat BYU.
Okay. So they're good enough to beat Dayton, and then they lose to BYU.
Yes.
Basically.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Acrisure Holiday Classic. That's on Thanksgiving and then Black Friday. San Fran, I think, is better than Colorado. I know Colorado just beat Colorado just beat someone, Andrew. Who did Colorado just beat? They just beat another path. Providence, was it?
Yeah, Providence.
Providence.
Yeah, right.
And San Fran just beat Minnesota. So, like, both these teams, I mean, Colorado may be better than anticipated given they're bottom of the Big 12 team. I think San Fran should win. I think Washington should beat Nevada, but Washington also struggled to take Southern to double overtime.
Yeah, and they're also beat up.
I would like to think the Fighting Danny Sprinkles would win this bracket.
Yeah, they're also just have a ton of injuries. That group is just beat up. But yeah, Washington should win that.
Acrisure Invitational again. St. Louis and Santa Clara that probably should be the championship in that bracket, to be honest. Like those are 2 very, very good mid-major teams.
I think that game could determine a lot on the bubble. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that could be a massive bubble game when we get to March. St. Louis against Santa Clara. If those 2 leagues want multiple bids, WCC outside of St. Mary's and Gonzaga, and the A10 wants to get 2 bids, that is a massive game for both of those leagues.
Yeah. And same thing with San Fran in their bracket, in terms of the WCC at least.
Correct.
Then the Rady Children Invitational in San Diego, California on Thanksgiving and Friday, the 28th. I mean, Florida should win. I'm excited. Florida's going to be TCU, but I'm excited to see Wisconsin and Providence are 2 teams I was sort of high on in the preseason, and now Providence definitely lost some luster. Wisconsin, I noticed also BYU. They should be fine. But everyone agrees Florida should win this one pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Then the last one I want to do because I'd be remiss if I didn't do it. We have the Big 5 Classic on December 6th. I know this is next week. But we have the Penn Quakers under Fran McCaffrey in the Big 10 Championship. They will play the winner of Villanova and Temple. Who wins that game, Villanova or Temple? It's at Villanova.
Oh, come on.
Villanova.
Okay. John, thank you. Andrew said, come on. I appreciate you giving me an answer.
Villanova. Nova.
So you're betting against LeBron Frames?
I am.
And then does Villanova beat Penn for the championship?
Yes. I actually think
betting
against a tougher game.
You think Penn's a tougher game than Temple?
No. I think Temple's a tougher game for Nova.
Oh, yeah. Are you betting against the number 3 leading scorer in the country, Ethan Roberts?
Yes. And you can tell him I said that. Yes.
I will.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Villanova.
For Villanova's sake, they have not had success since the Big 5 went to this new quad format. They got last place 2 years ago after losing to Drexel in the last place game. But that was under John. Who was the coach of Villanova at the time? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
He doesn't even remember. Kyle freaking Neptune.
Yeah.
An assistant coach on John's favorite NBA team, by the way.
Yeah.
Charlotte Hornets. Okay. I didn't miss any. What is that?
Friend of the pod.
Bring him on the pod?
Friend of the pod. Kyle Neptune.
Friend of the pod. John made me do what they win. Battle for Atlantis 2 years ago. They beat UNC and they beat Memphis. And I did an entire podcast episode called the Kyle Neptune Apology.
And then you rescinded it 2 episodes later.
And then 2 episodes later, I said, yeah, never mind. I'll be sending that apology.
Not reactionary at all, man. No knee-jerk reactions here.
Jeez.
So, okay.
All
yeah.
right.
Is there any tournament you guys are most looking forward to before? I mean, is it obviously Players Era after we see the rest of the field? I think Battle for Atlantis definitely has some sneak. I think Battle for Atlantis might have better, not higher quality games, but I think they're going to be closer matchups, a lot of them. If that makes sense. Battle for Atlantis over player error. But like player error is obviously the one. They're expanding to 32 teams next year. Is this still going to be 3 games with 32 teams? Do we know next year? I don't know. We'll have to see.
I'm not sure.
I would imagine it would be 4 games, but I'm not sure.
Tense.
But either way, college basketball season is well underway. Being on the lookout for the Center Hub Substack. Tomorrow, we're releasing an article by Sheed and ATL. Sheed in Atlanta, one of our contributors, wrote an article about Devin McLaughlin and how he's basically the catalyst for Vanderbilt. Andrew and I have our Last Week in College Basketball article that should be out either tomorrow, or if not tomorrow, then definitely Tuesday morning. And I have my weekly college basketball top 75 piece coming out probably. It's been coming out Wednesday morning, so probably Wednesday morning, if not Tuesday. But either way, be on the lookout for all that. This will also, as I said, be on the One and Done YouTube feed. It just made more sense for John and I to do this live if we were doing a live anyway, previewing Feast Week. Otherwise, follow us on our socials at the Center Hub _BB, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Conrad and Maxwell Geiger just did a women's lottery. Conrad, you could. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, just our first women's basketball live stream. Maxwell and I will be doing those with hopefully a little bit more regularity. To capture, kind of recap the women's game too.
So yeah, every Sunday you can find myself, Andrew, Conrad, at least 2 people from the Center Hub, whoever it may be, on here every Sunday. So otherwise, myself, Andrew, John, Conrad. You can follow Conrad at CP3_777. Follow me at the _NBAGel. That's NBAGELL. Follow Andrew at Schaeffer. You can follow John at John Simpson 42. Otherwise, that's all I have. Anything? Listen to the East Meets West podcast. Listen to Indie Basketball podcast. Listen to the Bird Rights. One and Done. Now I think I got everything. Okay, we will talk to you guys next Sunday, a week from today, where we will be recapping Feast Week and everything ahead. Thank you guys for listening.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Feast Week.